What's up, everyone? Welcome to the March 25th edition of DraftKings Tournament Plays presented by PrizePicks. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ChipMyMoneyDFS. And as a reminder, you get one free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at PrizePicks. Be sure to use the code Awesemo to receive a 100% first deposit bonus up to $100. We have a 7-game NBA slate tonight, and at least as of right now, it looks like the polar opposite of what we had last night. Last night on the 5-gamer, of course, we had like half of the teams resting players or dealing with significant injuries. Today, we do have some questionable guys. So, as always, you're going to need to tune into the deeper dive and live before lock for more up-to-date information. But the way things look right now, there's not a lot of clear-cut value. And so instead of a tournament plays video where I'm recommending a bunch of guys that are going to be 40% owned but have a 50% chance of success, today it's a lot of guys that have relatively low chances of success, but that are even lower owned and can be ways that you differentiate your lineups around the relatively few top tier plays on the slate. So starting at number 5 on DraftKings, Isaiah Hartenstein, $5,200, center only, taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. He is, sorry, $5,000, not $5,200. I can't read my handwriting. He's projected for 2% ownership with a 6% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Hartenstein has averaged 22 minutes per game over his last 5 games, but he does have volatile playing time. And if Ivica Zubac gets in foul trouble, which certainly could happen dealing with Joel Embiid or anybody, you get more playing time for Hartenstein. And then also one thing that doesn't necessarily have a direct impact on Hartenstein because typically he's splitting 48 minutes with Zubac anyway. But the Clippers announced yesterday that they're going to limit Marcus Morris to 25 minutes per game going forward. They're going to limit Nick Batum to 19 minutes per game. That does remove basically any of the risk that you get small ball lineups from the Clippers that potentially take minutes away from Hartenstein. We know he's a very good point per minute fantasy producer at 1.17 DraftKings points per minute this season. He doesn't need much to break his way for him to end up being a very, very good play at this price tag. Number 4, Dennis Schroeder, $4,600 point guard and shooting guard eligibility, projected for 4% ownership with a 7% chance of being in the optimal lineup tonight against the Portland Trailblazers. It's an excellent matchup for Houston. It's one of those games that looks great from a fantasy standpoint. You would probably have to pay anyone to watch it if they are not gambling on it because it is not going to be good from an NBA basketball standpoint. But Schroeder's cheap, and he's averaged 0.89 DraftKings points per minute since joining the Rockets. He's averaged 23.9 minutes per game in the games that he's come off the bench with both Kevin Porter and Christian Wood active this season. So he's someone else where, he's not guaranteed to play a lot of minutes, but if he does play 24, 25 minutes at low ownership, he can be a difference maker in tournaments in this matchup. Number 3, Jordan Clarkson, $6,200 price tag, point guard and shooting guard eligible. He's projected for 6% ownership with a 9% chance of being in the optimal lineup. He has a favorable matchup tonight against the Charlotte Hornets. And this is another player that just has volatile playing time, which is something that I really like to attack in tournaments, especially at low ownership. Last game, you got like 26 minutes from Clarkson, but that was a game that was a blowout. 2 games ago, even with Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell both active, Clarkson played about 37 or 38 minutes in a competitive game. There's certainly no guarantee that he gets there tonight. You shouldn't project him for it, but knowing that it is in the range of outcomes is nice. No Bojan Bogdanovic again does make it even more likely that Clarkson ends up in the closing lineup, which helps. Even if he gets 30 to 32 minutes, you're talking about somebody at $6,200 that averages about a fantasy point per minute this season and is in an above average matchup. Number 2, D'Angelo Russell, $6,900 point guard and shooting guard eligibility, projected for only 6% ownership with a 13% chance of being in the optimal lineup. He has a relatively unappealing matchup against the Dallas Mavericks, who have not been bad defensively and also play at a slow pace, but a pretty favorable price tag for someone likely to give you 30 to 32 minutes, and that has averaged 1.12 DraftKings points per minute so far this season. And number 1, coming in as the top tournament option on tonight's slate, LaMelo Ball, $8,900 point guard only, 9% projected ownership, 13% chance of being in the optimal lineup. He has a difficult matchup against the Utah Jazz, who are a solid team defensively and do not play at a particularly fast pace, but you do still have a 112 implied total for Charlotte. They're 4-point dogs at home, and we know the type of upside the Ball gives you. He certainly can single-handedly put you in position to compete to win a tournament at any time, but especially at only 9% ownership. In the games that he has played without Gordon Hayward this year, Ball has averaged 1.36 DraftKings points per minute and 32.9 minutes per game. He's coming off of a game his last time out where he played about 38 minutes, so certainly could see that again if tonight's game is competitive. So to recap, the top 5 tournament options on DraftKings as things currently stand: number 5, Isaiah Hartenstein; number 4, Dennis Schroeder; Number 3, Jordan Clarkson. Number 2, D'Angelo Russell. And number 1, LaMelo Ball.